This episode, we take you to Mueang International Airport in Bangkok, one of the oldest airports in Asia and once the busiest in Thailand. Every night, thousands of lights shimmer across the runways, and the air hums with engines and voices. But among the staff who work past midnight, there are stories whispered quietly, stories that never make it to the public. They speak of a woman who weeps near the old runway where few people walk anymore. Some say she's a lost passenger. Others believe she's a soul trapped between departures that never came. The crying is faint at first, then close, too close. Tonight, we step into the shadows of Mueang, where not all departures are seen by daylight. Mueang Airport has stood longer than almost any other in Southeast Asia. Opened in the early 1900s, it has seen everything: wars, evacuations, royal flights, and the steady rise of modern aviation. Even after the new Suvarnabhumi Airport took over as Thailand's main hub, Mueang remained alive, serving domestic flights, budget carriers, and military aircraft. By day, it looks ordinary: rows of passengers, polished floors, and the familiar voice of announcements echoing across the halls. But by night, when the last flights land and the lights dim along the outer runways, a different atmosphere takes hold. The air grows still. The distant sound of aircraft fades into a low hum that feels more alive than mechanical. The old runway, once used for military planes, now stands mostly empty. It stretches into darkness, surrounded by overgrown grass and the occasional flicker of security lights. Staff rarely patrol that far unless assigned. Some say radios cut out near that stretch. Others report hearing faint sobs over the static, as though a woman were crying beside them. The first known account came from a maintenance technician who worked the night shift. He had been checking runway lights alone when he heard what he described as a woman weeping softly, like she was just behind me. Thinking it was a stranded passenger, he turned and saw no one. Yet the sound moved, circling him, always just out of reach. He ran back to the control post, pale and trembling. When he told his coworkers, they laughed at first, but then others began to hear it too. Cleaning staff, ground controllers, even a few pilots waiting for early flights reported hearing crying near the same section of tarmac. One guard swore he saw a figure crouched near the edge of the runway, her hair long and soaked, her white dress dark with rain. When he shone his flashlight, she vanished, leaving only wet footprints on dry concrete. Over time, the stories spread quietly among employees. Some left offerings near the fence line: garlands, incense, and cups of tea, small gestures of respect. Others refused to work that area after midnight, saying the air felt heavier there, the sound of weeping echoing faintly, even when the night was silent. The management dismissed it as imagination, the result of fatigue or loneliness. But among the night workers, the story of the crying woman became an unspoken truth. No one knows who the crying woman was or when her story began. But every haunting has a rumor behind it, and at Mueang, there are several. One tale speaks of a woman who waited for a lover who never returned. She was said to have lived during the Vietnam War era when Mueang served as a key military base. Her partner, a Thai pilot, was sent on missions and never came back. For weeks, she visited the airfield daily, waiting by the fence to watch the planes take off. When his death was finally confirmed, she refused to believe it. One night, she walked onto the runway in a storm, and by morning, only her shoes were found near the edge. Others tell a more recent version, a passenger who missed her connecting flight, stranded overnight in the terminal. Airport staff found her sitting near a gate, crying quietly. She refused to speak, refused to eat, and refused to leave. The next morning, she was gone, and no record of her name was ever found in the passenger system. That night, a janitor working near the old runway reported hearing crying through the rain. Airport employees have pieced these tales together over years, never certain which one is true. Some think the stories blend into one another, layers of grief tied to a place that has seen countless goodbyes. Others believe more than one spirit lingers there, passengers, workers, even soldiers who once passed through Don Mueang and never made it home. For the staff who work at night, belief is not about evidence, but experience. A flight controller once told his friend that he saw a figure near the runway lights while checking instruments. Her outline was faint, almost transparent, but unmistakable. When he blinked, she was gone. Later, his radio caught a burst of static, and through it came a single sound: a sob. Security guards sometimes hear her, near the far end of the runway, always between midnight and 3. The crying is soft at first, almost like wind passing through the hangars. But those who have stayed longer say it grows clearer, until it sounds as though she is standing just behind them. Some guards quit after hearing it more than once. To this day, no one has found any official record matching the stories. But at Don Mueang, truth is not measured in reports. It is felt in the silence between takeoffs, in the way the mist rolls over the tarmac, and in the soft, lonely sound that carries through the night. The night shift at Don Mueang is quiet work. Most terminals close, lights dim, and only a skeleton crew remains. Technicians check instruments, cleaners sweep empty halls, and guards patrol endless corridors. The hum of air conditioning and the occasional echo of rolling luggage fill the silence. It was during one such shift that a cleaner named Somchai encountered what he described as the woman everyone talks about. He was mopping the floors of a maintenance passage leading toward the old runway when he heard footsteps behind him. Expecting a colleague, he turned and saw a woman in a white uniform standing at the far end of the corridor. Her head was lowered, her long hair wet, and in her hand, she held a small handbag. He called out to her, asking if she was lost. The woman did not reply. She lifted her head slightly, and Somchai saw her face. Pale, expressionless, eyes hollow. He froze. Then she began to cry, softly at first, then louder, as if from deep pain. The sound filled the corridor, echoing off the metal walls. Somchai dropped his mop and ran. When he looked back, the corridor was empty. He never worked that section again. Others who did reported strange things too. Buckets tipping over by themselves, the sound of heels clicking across the floor when no one was there, and the unmistakable sound of crying near the old access doors. Technicians say that sometimes the motion sensors in that area trigger with no one around. The cameras show faint distortions, not shapes, but flickers like heat rising from asphalt. They call it the crying woman's lane. The phenomenon became so well known that a group of monks was invited to bless the runway in the early 2000s. They chanted prayers for hours, sprinkling holy water on the tarmac and along the service road. For a time, the crying stopped, but a few months later, it returned. Staff said the first to hear it again was a young security guard. He quit after 3 nights. Airport authorities keep the stories quiet. They prefer order, not superstition. But among those who work the midnight shift, there is an understanding. The old runway belongs to someone else now. When they patrol, they walk quickly, whispering apologies into the night, just in case she's listening. Today, Mueang Airport remains a gateway for millions of travelers every year. Planes take off, families reunite, and laughter fills the terminals. Few who pass through know about the stories that echo beyond the glass walls and bright gates. For the staff, the legend of the crying woman has become part of the airport's identity, a quiet warning to show respect, to acknowledge the unseen. New hires are often told the story as part of their orientation. If you hear crying near the old runway, a supervisor might say, "Do not follow the sound. Just say a prayer and keep walking." Some workers believe she appears to those burdened with grief, mirroring their sorrow back to them. Others think she cries for everyone who has ever said goodbye under those bright airport lights. One old mechanic said, "She reminds us that not every departure is seen, and not every arrival is complete." Over the years, offerings continue to appear near the fence by the old runway. Small cups of coffee, garlands of jasmine, even airline boarding passes folded into shapes. No one admits to leaving them, yet they are always replaced. It has become a quiet ritual, a way of remembering those who vanished from the air, from war, or from life itself. Late at night, when the last flights have gone and the runway glows in silver light, the crying sometimes returns. Those who have heard it say it feels less like fear and more like sorrow, a sound of longing that seeps into the heart, reminding listeners that even in a place of movement and noise, there are stories that never leave. Perhaps the woman is not trapped at all. Perhaps she stays because she is waiting for a flight that will never board, for someone who promised to return, or simply for someone to listen. Mueang Airport, like many places in Thailand, carries history beneath its modern surface. It is a place of journeys, of beginnings and endings. For most travelers, it is a point on a map. For those who work the nights, it is something more. And so, when the lights dim and the rain falls gently on the old runway, a soft sound sometimes rises, a woman's quiet sob echoing through the night. Whether spirit or memory, no one can say. But everyone who has heard it agrees on one thing. It sounds heartbreakingly human.